Welcome to High Cheese. It's Friday, May 31st, 2024. And although I saw this coming, this is a travesty. It's a travesty to justice. It's a travesty to the American people. This guilty decision in New York. But like I said, I'm not surprised. You had a corrupt judge. You had a jury pool that hated Donald Trump, just looking for an excuse to find him guilty. Let's talk about Merchan, the judge. Now, this guy is conflicted. His daughter has made millions of dollars from the Democrat Party, as well as other progressive organizations. And there's a lot of power that a judge has during a trial. And he used that power. First of all, the case should not have been in there. No one really knows what Judge Trump was convicted of. And then they linked some misdemeanors to some arcane New York law to make it a felony. And then no one really knew what the heck Donald Trump was being charged with. They made it up as they went along. Both the prosecution and Merchan. Merchan denied Donald Trump from defending himself. Never made it clear what Trump was being charged with. And this is what I really find inexcusable, is his jury instructions. His jury instruction says you do not have to be unanimous in your decision on these charges. You can pick and choose. And that flies in the face of the Constitution. But they don't care. They know this thing's going to be overturned in the appellate or the Supreme Court. Who ever heard of this? Oh, you have to be unanimous. But it's Donald Trump. And with that said, let's go to Jonathan Turley. He's a constitutional professor, I think in George Washington. And he's dumbfounded. And he said this decision is ripe for an appeal. So let's go to the clip, and then we'll come back and discuss.
The law here was being written as the trial unfolded. I mean, you have a case that even people on other networks have admitted would never have been brought against anyone but Trump. In fact, you had another analyst on another network saying that they would never be able to secure a conviction outside Manhattan. I think that's part of what really undermines the legitimacy of this verdict. It fulfills the narrative that the former president has been stating for years, that there is this weaponization of the legal system. I happen to think that that's accurate here. You know, we can talk about the other cases, but this is a manufactured criminal case that zapped a dead misdemeanor into life and converted into 34 felony counts. And I just looked at the jury verdict. There is no indication that I saw of what the second crime was. So I still don't know what the president was convicted of. That's going to be a problem on appeal because you're supposed to be unanimous. In some ways, by the way, it may work to Trump's favor that the verdict form did not include that information, because you really can't make that cat walk backwards. If they did not record it, they could have reached a verdict that was 4-4-4, where 4 people found falsification, 4 people found a federal election violation, and 4 found taxation. We just don't know at this stage, and I'm not sure we'll ever know. And that will be a problem for a lot of appellate judges.
And I want to go back to another clip with Turley. And he's just reiterating here that he still doesn't know what Trump was convicted of.
And there were people that will be very sad by it. I was saddened to watch it. I disagree with this verdict. I think, as I've said before, that this case was legally unfounded. When they were reading those guilty verdicts, the one thing that we didn't know is really what he was found guilty of. Because if you remember, the judge allowed the jury to find guilt on any one of 3 secondary crimes. We weren't told whether the jury found any one of those crimes, whether they found all 3 of those crimes. I'm not too sure we will know that. That's one of the many issues that I think presents reversible problems in this case. So what I would say is that this is a historic moment. We all have to take a breath.
But I just can't get over that he had instructed the jury that you don't need a unanimous decision. Just pick and choose. Pick a crime, any crime. Doesn't matter. You don't have to be unanimous. Okay, let's get back to Marchand. And then he went on to prevent any defense of Donald Trump. I hearken back to what he did with Bob Costello. He just refused to have Costello answer any questions from Trump's attorney. All you heard was objection sustained. Objection sustained. Costello couldn't get a word out. And this is Cohen's former attorney who said that Cohen would do anything to stay out of jail, and also said that he had nothing on Donald Trump. And Trump wasn't allowed to come in with an expert that said, look, there's nothing here. That FICA looked at this, said there was nothing to see. They were not allowed to present that. But it all comes back to this Marchand. The violation of the Constitution, the violation of fairness, he threw out the window because he's looking to curry favor with the Democrats. He's as corrupt as they come. And what gets me is you got Bloomberg out there in their reporting saying, oh, Donald Trump was convicted of falsifying business records. Oh, really? What was the vote? Well, nobody knows. Was it unanimous? I don't know. Well, how can that be constitutional? But again, we are winning, and they will have nothing to do with it. They will use every mechanism of power to prevent Donald Trump from getting into the White House. And that's what they're doing here. And let me talk a little bit about the jury pool. Now, we know that New York hates Donald Trump. New York used to love Donald Trump when he was one of them, when he was part of the elite, the Manhattan elite, the Manhattan upper class. He was one of them. But when he went MAGA, oh, we can't have any of that. He's a traitor to us. We have to crush him because we cannot have people other than us thinking that they have power. And this is what MAGA is. You can only make America great again when all Americans have a skin in the game, when all Americans have a place at the table. The people of the Upper West Side, the Upper East Side, they don't want that. They look down on regular people. They look down on the middle class. And they thought Trump was one of them. And they had to come down hard on him because he's pulling the curtain away and showing the truth. Now back to the jury pool. It's part of the whole fixed game. These guys know, and you and I know, that Trump would never get a fair hearing in spite of a judge with this kind of jury pool. Now let's take a look at, and I hate to say this in the same sentence with Donald Trump, but let's take a look at Bob Menendez, his case. Well, he was indicted and he was tried in New Jersey several years ago. And he was acquitted, and I think there was one count that was hung, and because the jury base was in New Jersey. The jury pool was in New Jersey. And Menendez had a lot of tentacles with the people in New Jersey. He was still powerful at the time. He pulled a lot of weight, and the federal government lost. So what do they do with this new case? They use a little nuance of the law to bring the jury pool into Manhattan, where the power of Menendez doesn't go as far as in New Jersey. And again, I'm sorry for bringing up Bob Menendez in the same breath of Donald Trump. But they game this out. The Democrat Party, the White House, they all game this out. They're gaming the same thing down in Washington. And this is all part of the corruption. Now, many of the institutions, per se, aren't corrupt. What is corrupt are the people that are sitting in the positions of power in those institutions. And they're going to use every mechanism that they can use to get Donald Trump. Now you've got the mainstream media out there saying, oh, Donald Trump is a threat to all of our institutions. No, he's a threat to the people that are in power in these institutions. And remember, in government, you're only as good as your weakest link, and we've got a lot of weak links in these institutions. Now, maybe some of these institutions have to be modified, but the arrogance of these people, they equate themselves with the institutions that they're in charge of. And that's undemocratic. And that's what Donald Trump is going after. But there's good news. And before I get into the good news, I just want to play a little clip from Donald Trump after the verdict. So let's go to this clip, and then we'll get into the good news.
It's a rigged trial, a disgrace. They wouldn't give us a venue change. We were at 5% or 6% in this district, in this area. This was a rigged, disgraceful trial. But the real verdict is going to be November 5th by the people. And they know what happened here, and everybody knows what happened here. You have a Soros-backed DA and the whole thing. We didn't do a thing wrong. I'm a very innocent man, and it's okay. I'm fighting for our country. I'm fighting for our Constitution. Our whole country is being rigged right now. This was done by the Biden administration in order to wound or hurt an opponent, a political opponent. And I think it's just a disgrace. And we'll keep fighting. We'll fight till the end, and we'll win, because our country's gone to hell. We don't have the same country anymore. We have a divided mess. We're a nation in decline, serious decline. But this was a rigged decision right from day one, with a conflicted judge who should have never been allowed to try this case, never. And we will fight for our Constitution. This is long from over. Thank you very much.
And let me add one thing before we get into the good news. Now, Trump is going to be sentenced, I think, on July 11th. And don't be surprised if Merchan tries to put him in jail. This guy is all in. And this is how the communists work. This whole trial in New York was something that we saw during the Chinese Communist Revolution with the show trials that we saw in the Bolshevik Revolution in Russia. And believe you me, if they do it to Donald Trump, they can do it to you. But this is how communists work. And now the good news. And Trump is right. We're going to win. If we do what we need to do and continue to do what we need to do, we're going to win. Now, the Daily Mail came out with a poll right after the conviction. And Trump went up 6 points in his favorability ratings. But I think you're going to get a knee-jerk reaction in some of the polls. And you'll see, Trump off a bit. He's going to still be winning. But it'll be the initial knee-jerk reaction. I think Rasmussen came out this morning and they had a poll. And I think they initially, their last poll had Trump up 10 points. And now he's up 5 points. But I think that's part of the knee-jerk reaction. Because what's going to happen is that people are going to read this. They're going to say, oh, Trump was convicted. And then they're going to go to the store. And they're going to see eggs up 30%. Bread up 40%. Gasoline up 35%. Younger people can't buy homes because the price of homes and interest rates are up so high. They are ultimately going to reject the corrupt and incompetent Biden administration. Along with the lousy economy, we've got these fires all over the world with no end in sight. And they're going to say to themselves, well, wait a second. I'm not on board with this. We need a change. We need a guy that's going to bring us back to the good old days of Donald Trump with low interest rates, a great economy, African American, Hispanic American employment at all-time highs. They're going to want that. And quite frankly, there are people that are on the fence with Trump. Even if you talk to people that are kind of on the fence about the cheating that went on in 2020, well, they're going to take a look at this conviction and the scam that took place over the past 2 weeks. And they're going to say, you know what? Maybe there's something there. And those voters are going to go the way of Donald Trump and MAGA. Now, be prepared. You're going to have some of these left-wing polls come out and say, oh, look, Trump's lost some momentum here. Now, remember, they said the same thing after the State of the Union address by Joe Biden. Remember that great State of the Union address that Joe Biden made, according to the mass media? They were expecting all these bumps in the polls. Well, it didn't happen. A GDP revision came in this week. Initially, it was 1.6%. It was revised down to 1.3%. Oh, that's a great economy, and people are going to see this. And they're going to vote for Donald Trump because they want their country back. And like I said, if we keep moving ahead and we keep focused, Donald Trump will win. In spite of what the corrupt judicial system is doing, the corrupt Democrat Party is doing, we are going to win. In spite of this perversion of our judicial system. And the one last thing I want to add is that overnight, Donald Trump raised $35 million through his small donor website. It was so active that it crashed. $35 million overnight. And with that said, thank you very much for listening. You have a good week, and I will talk to you next Saturday.